Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This conference is being held while the mullahs in Iran and the Iraqi government have started the countdown. The main demand is the forcible relocation of the residents to close Ashraf by 31st of December. This is according to a 7-point agreement between the Iranian regime and the Iraqi government. I have come today to the capital of Europe to ask the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, and its High Representative to use their power and good offices to prevent a crime against humanity. I therefore would like to request the session of Council of Foreign Ministers, which will be held tomorrow, to firmly oppose the relocation of the residents, demand the extension of the deadline for closing Ashraf, and to accept any number of ill and wounded residents in their countries. The Iraqi government is trying to frame forcible relocation of the residents as a peaceful plan and obtain the approval or at least non-opposition of international community, including the EU. Therefore, Iraq promises to allow UNHCR doing the refugee status determination after the relocation. It also promises to allow UN to monitor the new locations. But experience shows that Iraqi government's promises cannot be trusted. Only 6 hours before the massacre of 8 April began, the US Embassy officially assured that Iraqi's Prime Minister had promised the residents that he has no intention of committing violence. For these reasons, 7 months ago, the residents declared they are only ready to consider relocation in Iraq if the new location is officially protected by US or UN Blue Helmet forces. They said they prefer an honorable death in place they have lived for 25 years to death in unfamiliar places. The Iraqi government tries to frame the issue of forcible relocation as a matter of national sovereignty. But national sovereignty must not be used as a cover for committing crimes against humanity, war crimes, and breaching the principle of responsibility to protect. Otherwise, Hitler's death camps and the crimes of Libya's former dictator and Syria's dictator would also be interpreted as their right to national sovereignty. To hide behind Iraqi sovereignty, to justify indifference to crimes committed by the Iraqi government against Ashraf is totally unacceptable. The mullahs in Iran and their allies try to cover up the truth by a wave of psychological war. They suggest that the PMOI and its leadership are blocking UNHCR procedures. In fact, they seek to misplace the butcher and the victim. Despite their undeniable right to remain in Iraq and then Ashraf, residents of Ashraf accepted the European Parliament's plan, who prepared Mr. Stevenson, for their resettlement in third countries. In addition, they presented 7 alternative plans including a temporary relocation to Iraq's neighboring countries. Despite having lived legally in Iraq for 25 years, and in order to remove any obstacle to their resettlement, they presented applications for refugee status. But for 3 months, Iraqi government has prevented the UNHCR to start its work and confirm the refugee status of the resident. The residents are ready to discuss any option other than their murder or surrender to the Iranian regime. But the Iranian regime and the Iraqi government are only thinking of these 2 options: their total elimination or their surrender, and not their departure from Iraq. This is the heart of the crisis. Therefore, the presence of representatives of the residents in the negotiations is essential, as emphasized by the UN Secretary General in paragraph 66 of his 7th July report to UN Security Council. The implementation of any agreement must be acceptable to the government of Iraq and the camp residents. Dear friends, after Arab Spring, Mullah's regime is very fragile. In order to maintain their fragile power, on one hand, mullahs want to obtain nuclear bomb, and on the other hand, they want to destroy their principal opposition, especially in Ashraf. Tomorrow, the EU wants to impose new sanctions to counter the Iranian regime's nuclear weapons program. Sanctions are necessary, but this alone cannot be a solution to the Iranian regime's nuclear weapon. The only way to prevent the mullahs from obtaining a nuclear bomb, and the only way to assure international peace and security, is regime change and the establishment of a democratic and non-nuclear Iran. This is a regime that took hostage British diplomats yesterday in Tehran by the order of Khamenei, because it wants to block international fairness by blackmailing. On the other hand, the Iranian regime wants to block the path to regime change with the destruction of its legitimate opposition. Please allow me to summarize here the solution offered by the Iranian resistance and its demands for Camp Ashraf, which is reality, is part of the solution for Iran as well. First, any forcible relocation inside Iraq must be put aside. The illegal and suppressive deadline of 31st December 2011 must be cancelled so that the UNHCR's work and the transfer of all residents to third countries is completed. Second, considering the Iraqi government's opposition to the UNHCR refugee status confirmation of the Ashraf resident, the only way is a group determination of the refugee status by the UNHCR. This would allow enough time for individual application to be reviewed. Third, the security of the residents of Camp Ashraf by the Blue Helmet UN forces and the stationing of a UN monitoring team at Camp Ashraf guaranteed by the UN Security Council until the transfer of the last person to third countries. Fourth, the international community and especially the member states of the European Union accept any number of ill and wounded residents on an urgent basis. Fifth, comprehensive sanctions, especially on oil, gas, and trade, must be imposed on the Iranian regime. Ladies and gentlemen, today the EU, the United States of America, and the United Nations are clearly aware of the disturbing plan to forcibly relocate. We have presented all the necessary documents and information to them.